or actions from committee regarding closed session. There was no announcements, no action taken. Moving on to 6, operation functions required by statute or ordinance resolution. 6A, resolution to vacate 28th Avenue corner right-of-way. This is another long process, and Jim, do you want to take that, or?
Sure. By direction of this committee, we did sit down with a representative from the city of Wausau and the village of Maine. We had Mike there and the city attorney, and we came to, the same conclusions that we've been talking about, that we're going to transfer the corridor, but it's through a process of one following the other, and we need to take the lead on it. So today in front of you is a resolution that Michael had drafted up for today's meeting, skipping through all the whereases and therefores, basically saying that we are going to take that off of the county and transfer it over to the city through the process. One thing that we wanted to talk about that was directed by the committee, and they had some last-minute adjustments between the two corp councils, is any sales of land that we've already purchased would come back to the county. So I don't know if you had those in the draft that you have. I don't know where that draft is at.
Go ahead.
This is Corp Counsel Pierner. Yesterday, the city attorney from the city of Wausau had reviewed the draft resolution. Their hope was to capture the proceeds of the sales in a separate agreement that wouldn't be outlined in this resolution. I think certainly any county land that is sold, we certainly have the right to direct where the sale and the proceeds go. So I don't think that's an issue, but I definitely think it's a consideration of, as part of this process, how those lands, county properties, are going to be dealt with, and to ensure that the proceeds are dealt with the way we want them to. So that's not specified in this resolution, other than I don't think the resolution takes that power away from us.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? I would like to see it in here, but I'm not, like I said, if you don't feel that restricts us from doing it, I'll go along with it. But like I said, I didn't see that in there. They're just worried about the proceeds. So, Supervisor Robinson, you got a question?
Mike, I just had a question relative to the multiple jurisdictions involved in that corridor, in so much as it's on the county official map and the city official map. All this resolution does is deal with the county's portion of the plan or the right-of-way. Can we just have that stated in our minutes?
Corp Counsel.
That's absolutely correct. All this resolution would do would deal with the county's portion. The city and the village actually would have to act independently, and I did add a clause in there that our action is contingent on them proceeding with their action as well. So if they elected not to act within 60 days, we wouldn't be losing anything either. But that certainly can be stated in the minutes as well.
Thank you. Is there any other? Go ahead, Supervisor Robinson.
I'll move that we approve the resolution and recommend it to the county board.
Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Seibert. Go ahead, Gary.
So what properties then would be involved with both the town of Maine and the city of Wausau? I don't know that do we have a map? I don't see a map, but is it extensive, or to what extent or doesn't it make any difference? So and the next question would be, what is the city of Wausau's role legally from now on to Because if vacating, you're just giving it, you're just abandoning that, basically, and it goes back to the original owner, is that right?
That's right for the purpose of a right-of-way. For the purpose of a designated county highway corridor, we're not vacating our ownership of any property, so the properties that the county owns are still county-owned after this process occurs. And same with any property the cities or the villages own. The difference would be that we're no longer designating this as a county highway corridor, so we wouldn't be holding those properties for the purpose of using them for a highway in the future.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Go
Then
ahead.
as long as you have the map, how does this doesn't reflect the 30th Avenue anything, because I know the city is mapping some of that, but this resolution doesn't speak to that 30th Avenue corridor, or does it?
Yes, it actually pops over on 30th. Let's go up here.
I get the 28th Avenue corridor part, but
Parcels right along here be the only ones. 30th Avenue. The parcels right along here would be the only parcels in the city of Wausau that would be part of the 30th Avenue corridor. Because there was going to be a shift of an alignment for the 28th Avenue up to 30th.
right, and that is not going to happen?
That's not going to happen as part of a county project. The city may pursue it at some point. The city will take over the corridor after we're done with it. The city of Wausau will then follow this resolution with their own resolution, taking over the same corridor area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to 6B, jurisdiction transfer of County Road B within the Village of Marathon. And
I can take that. Jessica might have stepped out. Just had a call from the Village of Marathon. They had their meeting last night. They had a few questions on a couple items in that JT. So at this time, I'd just as soon hold off instead of us passing something and then having to come back next month to correct it. So I'll work with the Village of Marathon to get a few things worked out.
so we're going to wait, put this on next month? Okay, all right. Then that's been pulled. All right, thank you. Moving down to 7, back to educational presentation and committee discussion. 7D, update from the administrator on budget preparation process.
So I just have a short hour-long presentation. I'm just kidding. It's
Move to adjourn.
I'll be
Second.
I'll be very brief on the budget preparation. Yeah, I'm just going to keep talking. As Mr. Ramberg referenced, we are in the midst of our budget preparation work, but we had an interesting conversation at HR Finance and Property with a new supervisor that I thought I'd just quickly run through here, and I'm actually doing it at all the committees because I thought it was a good conversation and it was helpful for particularly the newer members. But I want to talk real quickly about what my process is going to be, and it's really informed by historical process as I understand them from the Office of Administration. So as we talked about, and I won't belabor this, the county board is the policy setting body. you're tasked with setting policy in terms of what programs and services the county is delivering within the realm of state statutes and administrative code provisions. Jim's a perfect example. There are state laws and administrative code provisions that talk about what county responsibilities exist relative to highway maintenance and highway construction. So, what does that mean for my preparation of the budget? That is absent direction from a particular standing committee over a program within their specific jurisdiction relative to terminating a program or reducing an existing program, adding a new program, or expanding an existing program. My goal every year, and the goal from years past with every other administrator, is seek to do everything you have asked us to do historically with the tightening fiscal constraints that exist within county government. So every year we start with essentially a structural deficit. The amount of money we get from net new construction doesn't cover all of the costs we have that are increasing due to things like inflation, like we've talked about, insurance costs. Inflation has really eaten up a lot of that historically. So what staff do, I mean, that's what I talk about the county board's role. You tell us new program or terminate this existing program, expand an existing program. So let me flip quickly to the staff role. What we're trying to do then to deliver a balanced budget, which we're required to do every year, is we are looking at how can we be more efficient? How can we deliver the same programs with those fiscal constraints? So how do we do that? Continuous process improvement is a thing we have done for a great many years here in Marathon County. I think we've been a strong leader in the state of Wisconsin. Just quickly, Jim's examples within his department, we ran process improvement on highway maintenance activities like crack filling. We had sticky notes all along the wall and when to shifts start, and we significantly increased our efficiency and reduced our costs through that process. We use technology. Jim, again, a couple good examples. The use of brine as opposed to hard salt for various winter maintenance activities. Kevin and Jim are constantly looking at asphalt mixes that allow us to do our maintenance at a lower cost. And we look at model changes. And what I mean by a model change is the board tells us what programs to deliver, but we're the how people. Staff are the how people. So we're looking at, I'll use an example for Jim. If we're going to crack seal a road, is it more cost effective for us to do that ourselves or contract out? So those are things we look at. And I want to give one other example of a model change and why they're important. The Board of Health recently had a meeting. The county board, for time immemorial, has asked the county staff to deliver a nurse home visiting program to at-risk families and children. So prenatal and postnatal home visiting program. Start Right has been the model that we've used to do that. Recently, based on the county board's desire to have enhanced data and relative to return on investment and the opportunity for longitudinal data to really show what is our experience, staff undertook an evaluation of that. And we do this as we have resources to do it. But we looked at partnering with the university program to really dive down and see what that data showed. What we learned, to collect that data was going to be very, very difficult, and a lot of staff time, energy, and effectively money to do that. So we looked then, what other models exist that could deliver the program that the board has said it wanted? And the Board of Health, the health officer with her staff did that. And the great news, we identified a model that's used in more than 40 states, multiple counties in the state of Wisconsin, and it's going to save us about $375,000 next year. So that's what staff are doing to try to get to that balanced budget, delivering all the same programs or services that we've delivered in the past. And I want to then circle back to, again, the board's role and the standing committee role. If you have direction about a program or service that you want us to terminate, contract, expand, or add anew, I need that direction from each of the standing committees of the board. And I'm giving this same spiel at each of the standing committees looking for that. Staff are going to bring you some more model changes that we've been working on to try to position ourselves well to deal with those fiscal constraints, but absent stop doing this or do less of this in terms of a program or service, that's our approach. So, sorry,
Oh, that's okay. Any,
happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to belabor the points.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the challenge with that, where you're looking for guidance, is that we typically don't vote in any committee or even on the board level in that manner. There typically aren't programs that are, here we've been doing something for 5 years or 10 years to say, hey, let's put this on the agenda to consider expanding it or whatever. We tend to get movement of budget appropriations, right? You kind of get those. HR Finance is doing something, comes to the full board, and we're really not in depth on that kind of discussion on something. That's the challenge. So I think something that would be helpful, and this come up before, and I have reached out to the chair and vice chair, that I think it would be very helpful if we had costs illuminated, whether they're statutory or non-statutory, whether they are required or not required. For example, I don't know if StartRate is a required statutory program. The only way I will ever know that is if we have that on an agenda item to discuss. It seems to me if we can find another program that's $375,000 less, that program that has been controversial over the years clearly was maybe not vetted, maybe wasn't paid attention to, maybe was more than we needed, whatever those things might be. I think even during COVID, there was the discussion, I believe, that the nurses were not doing the same activity. So therefore, something was so important, we decided not to do it, to do something else that was more important. These kinds of things. And it isn't to diminish the work that's done in that program. I only use it because it's the example that's brought up. So if there's a way that we can get statutory dollars associated with programs, non-statutory somehow, that we can look at that information and delve in, that would be helpful. Otherwise, I'm challenged. I'm challenged to know, other than a straight 1% budget cut every department, which doesn't seem any way analytical. How do you do that?
That's a great question, and I'm sure my answer is going to be unsatisfactory. To adding on to your challenge, that's not the way counties have budgeted historically, is on a program basis. There's been a statement before, well, what does the line item budget show? You look at line item budgets, we don't associate generally an expense for office supplies. Within Jim's department, he'll have, let's just say, 50 programs or services that are delivered. Trying to give you good information has historically been a challenge relative to programs, the program level budgets. You'll get line items if you choose to look at them, but they're not overly helpful, to your point. You need to understand how all those pieces fit together. Priority-based budgeting is supposed to help in that regard. Quite honestly, from a resource allocation position, we haven't either. I can certainly speak from staff, and I'll let you speak from the board level on whether or not that's been utilized to its fullest extent. Certainly from staff, we need to do a better job with that. I did bring, trying to address, because I figured there would be a question about, hey, what programs and services do we provide? And I can work to go back and get a list that is separated out by mandatory and discretionary, because some of the answers are sometimes more nuanced. You have mandatory obligations relative to roadways, but as was referenced in previous meetings and previous discussions, sometimes our roadway improvements we do go far beyond what is statutorily mandated. Installation of roundabouts, for example, bike lane enhancements. Those things are certainly our roadway maintenance. Some of that falls into a mandated bucket. But the little extras that the bike lanes and the roundabouts don't always, I'll say it that way. But to your point, I think the first step, and I did bring this today and I'll send it to Supervisor Hardinger just to give you some information. Your committee, the Infrastructure Committee, has a direct relationship with the Highway Department in terms of the programs and services that Jim and his team deliver. Your relationship with the two other departments, City, County Information Technology, and the airport, are different in that, as a couple of members are on this committee are also on the airport board. The airport board is the program board that oversees airport operations. Similarly, CCIT has a program board. But nevertheless, I did bring a list of the programs that Jim's staff deliver at the Highway Department. I think this might help in the start of that conversation, but certainly Supervisor Dickinson, I agree with you. It's at best a start. Just telling you what programs and services are delivered. It doesn't have costs associated with them right now, but it may inform a discussion perhaps of, do we want more of something, a higher level of service? Because the way I look at the role of the board in terms of setting policy, it's what programs and services do we want to deliver? At what level? Because there's always a question, to your point, what is our mandate? Do we want to stay at the mandate, go above that mandate? Or for a discretionary program, you have a far broader range. You can, there is no mandate. So what level of service, for example, parks. Parks are not mandated. No county needs to have a certain number of parks. Certainly the public greatly appreciates the park system we have here, but you as the board get to determine the level of service that's delivered through our park system. So I'll hand this out, but certainly looking for feedback on what additional information you're going to need. I think this is going to be a long conversation. This is not something, quite honestly, that staff have the capacity to deliver right now in terms of a great deal of extra, more information than has been historically delivered, which I appreciate has not been a great deal. Once we have Workday implemented in 2023, I firmly envision being able to give you greater information in a more real-time fashion. But as Supervisor Robinson knows, as the chair of HR Finance and Property, our technology challenges right now are great with our financial system. They're similar to the monitor that is having issues today.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson, then Supervisor Robinson.
Just the one follow-up on that then. So what guidance are you looking for? You said you're looking for guidance. What is that? Is that, hey, I'd like to see more money spent on roads, like on a piece of paper? Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good, Jim would like that guidance. I think the discussion with Mr. Ramberg this morning was helpful because you can start to say, what is the goal you want to accomplish, that you want staff to accomplish in budgeting? If you want us to budget, develop a roadway maintenance program that does, as Mr. Ramberg kind of concluded with, continue to gradually grow at what we would anticipate the GTA percentage to grow, that would be more guidance than I think we've ever gotten, and my frame of reference here isn't very long, but Jim's is longer, but that's more guidance than I think we've ever gotten in the past. If you are willing to entertain, and I think you had this conversation last meeting on the first point, if you're willing to have it or want to have a discussion about dropping that PACER rating, which I understand you had the discussion, you want to maintain that PACER rating, that is good guidance for us because that informs what our roadway maintenance schedule looks like. We also had a discussion about winter roadway maintenance. Is there a desire on the part of the board to have, or this committee to have clear direction? hey, keep doing what you're doing, or we want to look at what it might look like to do less. Right now, we try to beat out the storm, right? We get out there before the storm to lay brine. We get out very quickly. We could change that and have let the snow fall and be close to stop falling before we go out. That's a service level discussion that, again, guidance from the board through this committee would be helpful in that. I don't know, Jim, are there other things that I'm missing?
No, those are the main roads and snow plowing, that's us.
All right, Supervisor Robinson, thank you.
Well, I would just like to add, one of those items for discussion is all-season roads and where do we put them from a policy perspective going forward. But I just want to pick up on the administrator's comments relative to budgeting. The priority-based budgeting process, Supervisor Dickinson answered many of those questions, but the problem was that we had a lot of garbage going in and therefore not a very good product coming out, and part of that was based upon Kayenta and the limitations thereof. So I think with the new ERP system, we may have more capacity going forward to track some of those costs and do that going forward. I think that's a discussion we'll want to have with administration on what our expectations are out of that. But we went through, is it mandatory, statutorily required? Is there another community organization that can provide that service? A number of other criteria in developing the ranking within the priority-based budgeting system. But it sort of fell apart with our lack of support and our lack of budget, in the context of budgeting and other things.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, if not, we'll move down to number 8, announcements. Jim wanted to talk to us about the next meeting date, which is September 1st, 2022 at 9 a.m.
Michael, I'm passing the baton.
Thank you. Our highway commissioner mentioned to me that there is a certain deadline coming up, that it may be helpful for this next meeting to occur after the deadline instead of before the deadline.
Yeah, we have the county bridge aid applications that gets approved in September, so we have it ready for budget. The applications, the reimbursement requests, are due on September 1st. So there's no way we can have them due on September 1st and meet on September 1st. So you either would have to have a special meeting, or I asked Michael if this meeting can be pushed back or does need to be on the 1st.
So our board rule says that infrastructure shall meet on 9 a.m. on the Thursday during the week of the first Thursday of each month, but it also says that standing committee chairs can call a special meeting if action is required outside the normal committee's business date and time. So I would interpret those together as saying that we could set a meeting at any time that works for the committee, and in doing so, we could also cancel a regularly scheduled meeting that seems to me to make sense, and with the spirit of having committees work, that would make sense to me.
Yes, that makes sense to me too, and we want to look at, so we're looking at canceling the first meeting in September.
And moving it to the second Tuesday, which
Yeah,
would
the
be
second, which would
the 8th
be
one. And
the
I'm
8th.
Gone. I'm on vacation. No, I would think Kevin puts those together. I would think we should have them put together by the 8th.
Supervisor Robinson?
Does that need to go through any other committees before it goes to the board? Okay.
So are we looking at the 8th, or that doesn't work?
Or is the 13th better?
6th?
15th?
Tuesday the 6th. Public safety's at 1:30. So Tuesday the 6th work for everyone? At 9 o'clock?
That wouldn't give us enough time.
Oh,
That's only giving us an extra day.
how much time do you need?
A week minimum, maybe 2.
The other thing we've done with this is we've also had just a special meeting just before the county board meeting, just a half hour, and essentially run through just that one agenda item.
We could do that too, leave the first, and when you determine when you'll be, before the county board, that would be till the 22nd.
Yeah, otherwise if we had, usually about a week, because I get a bunch of them in on the first, and then any questions, clarifications, I need to go chase down, and usually it's the town chairs that can answer it, not having to go back to their boards or anything, but.
Yeah, why don't we do it on the 22nd, an hour before the county board at 7, so we could do it at 6?
Half hour maybe,
Half hour? Is that good?
or
So
15 minutes. before.
okay, so
What's better for you, half hour or 15 minutes before? Should be half hour.
oh,
I can help. I'll stay.
okay. So 22nd for a special meeting. We're going to keep the first for the regular infrastructure and move us. We'll have a special meeting on the 22nd at. Is it 6 or 6:30? What? 6. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Yes. And we'll have a special meeting on the 22nd. Okay, and then I have just one announcement, if that's taken care of. Just want to know if anybody from this committee is going to go to the Wisconsin Counties Association, the conference in Wisconsin Dells, the 18th to the 20th, so that Kim can make reservations. You could let her know, possibly at this meeting. Go ahead.
I'm planning on it, going.
All right. All right, moving to number 9, adjournment. Take a motion. Nobody wants to adjourn. We could, motion by Gary, second by Robinson. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. I said I'd never have another 2.5-hour meeting, but it was
Tuesday. Sunday's meeting.